Ciao.
Depth reporting about the new drug laws, the facts about birth control, candid interviews, color posters, the straight facts about stereos, guitars, and the new...
I was floored. So the reason I wanted to talk to you this week, Jeff Gamet is here with us, everybody. Jeff Gamet. What are we saying these days? Roamer, wanderer, nomad, vagabond, call him what you will.
I really like what you came up with at one point, which is Ronin.
Ronin, yeah, there you go. All right, that'll work. Jeff Gamet is here with us this week. I will tell you the reason I reached out to you last week when I did was because I saw you make some offhanded comment about HomePod on Twitter. What I did not realize at the time was a few hours before, Apple had said, yeah, HomePod, yeah, we're done with that. Now, I know people know about this now because I did it on Monday's Mac OS Ken, and I'm assuming people listening to this listen to that or whatever. But for people who don't know, Apple has said they're done with the full HomePod. They're going to sell through their stock, which they've apparently already done, although you might be able still to find it at some third-party resellers or stuff like that. They're concentrating now on HomePod Mini. $99. People really love that, and that's what they're focusing on now. And you had thoughts, and I would like to hear them.
At first, I was surprised at some of the reactions that people had to my thoughts on the death of HomePod, or as I'm calling the OG HomePod, to make sure people know I'm talking about the big tube. Yeah, but I predicted what I think is in store for the OG HomePod now that Apple has confirmed that it's a discontinued product. And the short version is it will languish for updates because Apple's probably not going to, after it runs through whatever updates it already has in its product cycle, it's not going to do anything more for the HomePod. And then at some point down the road, we'll see probably some HomePod features stop working. And not because Apple is intentionally killing them, but because they'll do something with a protocol or some sort of update that ends up leaving the original HomePod, whatever that feature is, behind, or they create some new feature that the HomePod Mini can take advantage of, but it's just not coded for the original HomePod, so you won't be able to get it. And then eventually we'll just have these fancy looking smart speaker tubes that we can use for just some wireless music streaming from our own computer, and that's about it.
What do you make of the whole move, though? Because Apple made the iMac Pro until they didn't, right? Apple makes the Mac Pro, which is obviously a very different sort of thing. Apple is making the AirPods Pro Max, if I got that name right. I mean, there's a place for some high-end stuff. And then, there's, I don't know. Honestly, the move surprised me a bit. I know the $99 HomePod Mini is obviously selling better because it's $99. I also know it doesn't sound as good because I've got one of each. And while the HomePod Mini sounds great, when it really sounds best is when you don't have a HomePod to compare it to.
Right. Yep.
I mean, is the problem that only 10 people were buying them? So what the heck? I mean, I was just kind of surprised to see that they were killing it.
I was surprised to see them kill it because I've been under the assumption that with the way they've been positioning themselves over the past few years, that they, meaning Apple, really, really want to own our living room. They want to be the core of our entertainment world. And the HomePod was a big part of that because, you have the streaming stuff that you do with the HomePod, but you could put four in a room and have like this crazy home theater system that worked with your Apple TV, and we don't have that now. So all I can figure is that the sales on HomePod were so bad that it just simply didn't make fiscal sense for Apple to keep producing that. And that's also an admission to me that Apple realizes they don't get to own our living room. I mean, they still get to be a part of it, but our living rooms are not going to be an Apple entertainment system.
I wonder if there is, well, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I had friends for years who thought that Apple was going to make a full-on television of their own. And, you know, the idea was kind of interesting to me for a little while. And then I decided, no, I don't think so, because they're going to do Apple TV instead. Now, I really thought that the push would be for Apple TV. It never occurred to me that they would put their own stuff into somebody else's operating system the way they're doing with every smart TV. But it never made sense to me that they were going to make a television of their own, because it would be too expensive, and people don't buy TVs that way. People buy TVs when their other TV craps out, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think the thing is like
every 7 years is the average? Yeah.
I mean, do you think honestly there are some people who are such audio nerds that they have like really great sound systems for their TVs, but the problem is the people who are going to do that have already done it? And then the rest of the people weren't going to go out and blow between $700 and $1,400 on 4, disparate speakers that aren't really wired for it, but you can set the whole thing up for it. Do you see what I mean? I mean, is home theater for the people who are already into it, but the people who are already into it already have a solution, and they're not going to go out and like blow out everything that they have for these 4 pills that sit around the apartment?
I think that's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is that Apple, I believe, unintentionally shot themselves in the foot with the launch of HomePod, because they released this product that realistically, for what it's supposed to do and what people expected to be able to get out of it, it was hobbled. And we're seeing some of those issues 4 years down the road finally being addressed. So Apple did not make it a seamless and easy solution to use HomePod as your audio system with your Apple TV. Mm-hmm. Like initially, you would turn on your Apple TV, and then you had to go and select your HomePod as the audio source every frickin' time, because you were doing something else between listening or watching TV shows, and so it would default away. And that's not what people want when they sit down to watch their favorite TV show or movie on their big screen TV with the best sound. They want to be able to hit a button and everything just works. So that right there, I'm sure, drove a lot of people into other audio solutions. And ultimately, because of the limitations that we had in HomePod as part of a full home audio setup, mm-hmm. it really hobbled the product way too much, I think.
What do you think of the idea that, and I'm not saying this is why Apple did it, but what do you think of the idea that HomePod softened the ground for HomePod Mini? Because if Apple had hit with HomePod Mini at $99, people would still be saying, well, you get 3 Echo whatevers for that, right? Whereas mm-hmm. if Apple comes out with a $350 speaker, then all of a sudden they come out with a $100 speaker, boy, that $100 speaker looks reasonable. I could never see spending $350, but I could totally see spending $66 more than I would on the Echo whatever on the HomePod Mini. I mean, does the ridiculous cost... And let me say really quickly, I talked about the HomePod. I got mine at half price or less. I want to say it was like $150 because I knew somebody who knew somebody who had access to a thing, right? So it was only $50 more than my HomePod Mini. I can look at it and like say, I think it's tragic that the HomePod is going away because it sounds so much better. I would not know that if I had to pay $350 for one. So,
I paid $350 for mine.
Well, there you go, and you must feel the pain. But here's the question: Does the HomePod? Did it act as almost like that horse is far too big to let through the cave or gate, but I'll let this other Trojan horse through the gate, for $100 less or $100 total.
Price is always going to be an issue for some people. Doesn't matter what the price is.
Okay. Yes.
And I paid $350 for a HomePod, and in the end, my HomePod, I jokingly refer to as my $350 kitchen timer that also streams music. Because for the most part, that's really all it is for me. My $100 HomePod Mini is I've moved it from room to room trying to find the place where I want it. And what I've realized is I want it in all the rooms. So where I've never considered buying a second HomePod, I can see another HomePod Mini, at least one more, in my near future. So yeah, price I think is a big part of it. I don't think Apple released HomePod with the idea that, this will soften the blow when we release the speaker we're really going to sell.
Oh, no. I don't think that. I'm just wondering though if that is a thing that happened.
I think that was a thing that happened just because it worked out that way. But Apple does have a track record with how they release products. Like you can see with iPhone and with iPod, where they go high end, and then when they feel like they've saturated enough of that market, then they release the mid-range thing. And when they've saturated enough of that market, then they come in with their lower price thing.
Right.
And I think that was the plan here, where HomePod, they saturate the market with that and then release the HomePod Mini and then whatever else down the road. And it turns out that market saturation for the HomePod was not at all what Apple thought it was going to be, because people just weren't buying them in the quantities that Apple needed them to do.
I've been wondering what they're going to call the mid-range AirPods Pro Max. AirPods Pro Max-ish. Maybe for $350. So we'll be like, oh, what a bargain. Because they used to be, but now they're only $350, you say. I'll take 2?
Yeah. I like your name better. Mine was going to be AirPods Pro Max Mid, or Mid Max, or something like that. But, the ish part, that just really works for me.